We need reparations, we need vacations, we need blue strips for all the time we spent waiting. We gon' kill for what we owe, Joe, we not playing. Mr. President, I think it's time we get paid. I watch all of my people die. Why your people try to act like we commit crime? Get killed on TV, got our kids scared to go outside. It's time you pick a side. Before we turn this bitch up, Mr. President better fall in line. Yeah, we don't need loans, we need what we owe. We need police to stop killing sisters inside their home. And when it happened and we burn this bitch down, they need to stop telling us we was wrong. Ay, and we need unity. We need the government to stop bringing drugs in our community. They better stop playing, we not the ones. You got guns and we got guns. We'll kill if you play with our funds. Yeah, how we supposed to restore when they won't give us more? When they got knees on our necks when we walk out the store? How we heal when they go to the park, kill a 12-year-old boy for killing, we ready for war. Yeah, and we need reparations, we need vacations, we need blue strips for all the time we spent waiting. We gon' kill for what we owe, Joe, we not playing. Mr. President, I think it's time we get paid.
Peace, peace, greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, AKA Mr. Just the Facts. I'm gonna have some distortion. StreamYard is running some type of issue with Chrome, and they are saying that they're working on it right now. So if I kind of look like I'm fading in and out, or my background is doing like it is right now, there's nothing I can do about that. So shout out to everybody that's watching and will be watching. You already know what time it is. If you're watching on X, come on over to the YouTube channel. We're trying to build our channel up. You know, we always get a couple hundred people on X watching, but our YouTube numbers are flimsy. So we're trying to keep our YouTube numbers back up. So I need all of my people on X to get on over to YouTube and, you know, hit that like button. Hit that like button. What's going on, Charlie Jacobs? He said, peace, American Freedmen family, be the power. We are in the building. Shout out to my sister Ree in the building. Shout out to the whole Be the Power platform, all of the founders of BTP, Be the Power, and United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. And shout out to everybody that supports us and rocks with us. Today we're gonna have an interesting conversation, right? The OBBBA is, we got our brother Josh in the building, BTP member. The OBBBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, is the topic of discussion. And we are going to keep that topic going insofar. I told you, the more I learn, the more information I will bring to you all. So I want to make sure that I give quality information. We're going to be talking with the healthcare broker today, a sister named Monica Williams. I was listening to her on a Twitter space the other day, Saturday, and she was breaking down some information that I hadn't quite heard before. And of course, you know how we do. We do our research over here. We don't just believe anybody. We research each other on this platform. So, you know, we dug into some of what she said, and shout out to Brian, said he reposted the stream. And, you know, most of what she said definitely panned out. And, you know, there was some other things that I was like, I don't know, but we get to ask the sister some questions to see if you know, she has some answers or can provide certain data or whatever it may be, right? The purpose is to have a conversation. Y'all know how we do on this platform. We don't do no gotcha, getchas, and none of that stuff. Even when we debating with people, you know, I try to be fair and honest, and this is a discussion. And tomorrow we're going to do a discussion, more than likely. I'm not 100% certain yet, but we may be doing a discussion on cryptocurrency. So y'all make sure y'all tune in for that. So before I bring my guest on, I want to just reiterate what we talked about on that last live stream that we did on this particular topic. So let me see. Let me pull up some notes here. Let me pull up some notes. And then we're going to bring the sister on, and then we're going to go through it, because what she was saying was powerful, man. And I was like, okay, I got to take my notes and research what she's saying. And like I said, most of it was on point, like just about all of it. So let me see. Why is this thing acting funny on me right now? What's going on? Yo, family, make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all are reposting this. If you're on X, repost it. If you are on Facebook, share it. If you are on YouTube, of course, share it. Send it to your people. So I want to start here because we focused on us, the American freedmen. And for those that do not know, when we say American freedmen, we are speaking about our ancestors who are the who were emancipated from the slave labor camps in this country, America's day one citizens, right? We were, for the most part, many of us were free in the North, but many, many more of us were enslaved in southern states. We're not talking about Black people from the Caribbean or Black people from Africa. And in this case, we're not even talking about all of the American citizenry. We're focused strictly on the American freedmen. Now, we can get into how it will impact everyday Americans. Of course, that will be a part of the conversation, but we want to know how stuff affects us first. That's our job. That's what we do over here. So let's get into some of these notes. Potential benefits for freedmen. Expanded work and skill support. The bill enforces 20-hour work week or training requirements for able-bodied adults, similar to the Clinton-era policies. In principle, such incentives could increase job opportunities, foster skill building, and reduce dependency on public aid. And this is coming directly from the White House. Now, we know the Clinton-era policy, which we pulled up on the last live stream, was an epic failure, right? If the American freedmen gain access to education and training and employment resources, this could enhance economic mobility and self-sufficiency. Targeted protections for vulnerable populations. According to supporters, Medicaid protections remain intact for pregnant individuals, children, seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income families. Groups that would include many freedmen communities. So that's coming from Wikipedia, the Wikipedia article on the act, CBS News, and whitehouse.gov. Programs like rural hospital stabilization could improve access to healthcare in underserved regions where freedmen often live. Social safety net integrity, This is coming from campaignlegal.org and whitehouse.org. Advocates argue the bill eliminates waste and fraud, e.g. services for undocumented immigrants, freeing resources for eligible citizens, including freedmen, without fundamentally reducing benefit levels. And this is some of what my guest and I are going to get into tonight. So then I'm going to read off these potential harms, and then I'm going to bring my guest in. Potential harms for American freedmen. Cuts to Medicaid and SNAP coverage. Nonpartisan analysis, e.g. the CBO, projects billions in reduced coverage. 11.8 million fewer people on Medicaid. This was a part of the discussion Saturday that our guest has weighed in on, and I'm curious to see, what her what her analysis is when it comes to the potential negatives of this bill. And it says, since freedmen historically relied heavily on these means-tested programs, restrictions, meaning stricter eligibility, provider tax reductions, could limit vital health care and food supports. 2, work requirements possibly backfiring. Now, again, we pulled this up on the last live stream and showed that Clinton era policy, it failed. It did not do what it was intended to do. And it says for freedmen lacking access to childcare, transportation, or stable jobs, mandatory 20-hour work rules could lead to benefit loss due to inability to meet requirements, resulting in economic instability. 3, increased national deficit, hurting public support. Now, this is the one that split MAGA up, that caused Elon to start a whole new party, along with, as Trump says, cutting that EV mandate. Elon is saying it wasn't about the EV mandate, but it is what it is. That's their beef. But Doge was created to rein in government overspending and misappropriation of funds. So it says the bill is estimated to add 3.3 trillion to the debt over 10 years, 3.9 trillion including interest. Axios.com and Al Jazeera did great reporting on this. Chronic deficits could trigger deeper budget cuts or frozen spending, likely in safety net programs, which historically fill vital needs for American freedmen. So with that said, let's bring our guest on. Sister Monica Williams, how you doing? Unmute. I can't hear you, sis.
Okay, sorry about that. I was having some mouse issues, so sorry about that. I was trying to unmute myself, and then the mouse was getting stuck.
No, definitely. So, let me read a part of your bio so people can know about who you are. Right? I thought your spiel that you gave in that space was great, and I immediately reached out so that you can come on. You know what? I'll just read this whole thing about Monica Ross Williams, MBA, LIA. Outside of being the founding partner of MRW Solutions Group and executive director of Educate Seminar Series and Events, Monica is a lifelong, and I've always, I think, pronounced this word wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong.
That's okay.
Ypsilanti.
You're close. You're good. Ypsilanti. Yeah.
Ypsilanti area resident, business owner, and former local elected official. Starting with serving 9.5 years on the Ypsilanti, did I say that right?
Yes,
Ypsilanti Township Parks Commission from 2011 to 2016, and as an Ypsilanti Township trustee from 2016 to 2020, Monica has a strong belief in giving back to the community as a whole. She previously served as a volunteer on the SEMCOG Regional Parks and Recreation Task Force, the Washtenaw County Regional Iron Bell Trail / Border to Border Trail Committee for Eastern Washtenaw area and the Washtenaw County. Now, am I saying Washtenaw correct?
You are.
Okay. County Transportation Study Board from 2016 to 2022. From her efforts, Monica was the driving force in the SEMCOG Regional and WATS County Master Plan design of US 12 and Huron Street. I sound like I said that wrong.
You did. Huron Street. You did good.
Huron Street. Whitaker Transportation Corridors in the memory of Anthony McGeorge. Previously, she has served as political advisory committee chairperson for the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti Black Chamber of Commerce, vice president of the Eastern Washtenaw Democratic Club, and president of the Washtenaw County Minority Business Alliance. Monica holds a BBA in business management from Cleary University, 2004, and an MBA in organizational leadership, 2013. She currently serves as vice president of graduate relations of the Cleary University Alumni Association since 2018, is an associate member of National Insurance Benefits and Insurance Professionals since 2023, and associate member of Business Ambassador for Canton Chamber of Commerce since 2022. The sister done put some work in, man. The sister done put some work in. So I know I've read your bio, but give a brief introduction of yourself and then kind of, if you will, you can go into what brought you to study this bill and give some of the differing perspective that's been floating around out there.
Thank you. Well, first things first, I just want to make sure I put it out there. I am no longer a Democrat. I am an independent voter. I vote on economic issues because I believe that the first thing that we have to do as individuals is to look out for ourselves and our families. So we need to place our votes based on what's going to do best for us economically, period. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. As for my company and how it pretty much got started, I can give a very brief overview. So at the end of 2020, I was finished being an elected official. And so I was working for a company that specialized in longer term primary care health for seniors, right? They do appointments more like 45 minutes to an hour instead of the 15 minutes that they get you in and get you out. And so when I was working for that company, I was able to partner with an insurance agent because I was their community relations manager. And I asked the person that was next to me, I'm like, do you make money doing what you're doing? Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. Well, great. I'll just keep that information in my file cabinet. Never know when you might need it again. So it turns out that file cabinet was used quite early because of OVID. That's what I call it. I call it OVID instead of the other name. So so after that, obviously we couldn't do any more community relations. We stayed on for a couple months, and then like a lot of people, we were laid off. I do understand how government works. Whatever they give you, believe me, it is not for long. So even though they had extended unemployment and people were getting higher levels of unemployment across the country, I knew real quick that wasn't going to last a long time. So I went back to the conversation that I had with the gentleman some months back. And I'm like, okay, I am going to start my own insurance company. Number one, I understand a lot of different things. Is that, when us Black women get to a certain age and a certain educational level, people get threatened, right? They are threatened by our knowledge. They're threatened by our presence. They're threatened by the fact that, honestly, we know more than them. And so I knew that with this route of taking my own company, that was the best route for me to go forward. Started MRW Solutions Group again in July of 2020. I had nobody. I just had myself and really couldn't do what I do best, which is going out doing grassroots community relations and meeting folks where they are. So use the tools I had, which pretty much was everybody's tool at that point, was Zoom. And then got my first client October 2020. And today, we have over 400 clients. And I really believe in what I do. What I do is give people information onto how to use their healthcare strategically for them. I get it. Is the healthcare industry great? No, but you do, and most people need to have it, but they need to know how to do it correctly, how to interact with the healthcare industry and their benefits correctly, and know their summary of benefits. So that way they don't end up getting surprised, right? With bills, surprise with, oh, they wasn't going to cover this or they're not covering that. And they also know about the appeals process and how it is that they can use that strategically to their advantage to get them to cover things that they're claiming they can't cover, especially if it's in the summary of benefits. So why in those 5 years, might as well say, what I was seeing, especially when I was on the ground, was a lot of things, because I do a lot of community-based events. I go to senior centers, senior high rises. I also basically do a lot of booth display events in various areas across Michigan. In fact, I just finished doing one not too long ago, last weekend in Belleville. And so when I'm out in the community and I'm doing these things, I hear a lot and I see a lot. Right. It's so much better. It's more better than sitting around on a computer waiting for a lead to come to you. So I was at one particular event. I'll say Dearborn. I won't say the location. But I was at a particular event in Dearborn, Michigan, and I saw these gentlemen come up, and no, they were not Arabic, but they came up and they had these cards. These cards look like passport cards. I know I have a passport. And that was their ID card. Interesting. They also had cell phones, right? That was given to them. They said they got them when they actually came past the border. They also were talking about their $5,000 gift cards, right? The gift cards that they were using in order to, I guess, navigate life. They were also eligible, right, in order to get health care. Well, okay. I understand immigrants, depending on if they're legal, can be eligible for health care, but I also understand that Americans should be eligible for health care. That is when I saw it, right? I saw it with my own eyes about what was being said, what the previous administration was doing. Yes, they were threatening the structure of Medicaid, Medicare, S-chip, and also Obamacare. So all of these can be dependent on if a person is working, they probably have benefits through their group employer. But if you're not working, or if you're an entrepreneur or something similar, you're in between jobs, etc., your employer is not offering you benefits of some reason, then you, if you need healthcare, are going to need one of these systems. And so the fact that you had a bunch of individuals, right, being able to just have access to these systems without having legal status was irritating to me, right? That was that was so very irritating. The other part of it that was equally irritating as well is that you had the prior administration training people who were navigators. Navigators were unlicensed insurance agents in order to sign people up for healthcare. Well, in every state across the United States, you have to be licensed to do insurance. So that was interesting. Then they also had people who were MMPs. That's like Medicare, Medicaid people. They were using USAID money in order to sign people up for healthcare, being non-licensed. So it was two threats coming. It was a threat to the system, and it was also a threat to how it is that us as licensed brokers and agents do business. Well, I knew that wasn't tenable. And so when the administrations changed, I knew it was going to be a lot of differences. Right, it was going to have to be a lot of differences because you had roles swell, not just from people, as I like to say, who are Americans, who need these Black Americans that need these benefits. If they are qualified for them, they need it. I'm talking about swell from others who are not from here, and this is not their homeland. This is not the land of which they were born, and they didn't have legal status. So the changes that has happened to healthcare in the BBB, do I agree with all of them? No. But would I say I agree with about 70% of them? Yes, because it was necessary to protect the system for us, particularly Black Americans who need to access the system.
Indeed. And thank you for that. I think this is an area where many of our people have deficiencies. I was working at this job in Winder, Georgia. I was there for 3 years. It was a company owned by Berkshire Hathaway. It was a fiberglass company, fiberglass manufacturing company. And whenever we would have the discussion about healthcare and enrollment and all of the different things, the benefits, et cetera, what is that? HSA and
Yeah, health
HRA,
savings
I believe,
accounts.
right?
Yes,
So
health reimbursement accounts. Yes.
yeah, I used to be sitting there confused. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell these people, but all the white people knew exactly what was going on. And like only maybe one or two of us knew what was going on. So I would be, after it was over, I'd be like, yo, what does all of that mean? Because I still want to know what it means. After a while, I was able to pick up on some of it, but I think that we are deficient in these areas. So I definitely am grateful for having you on the platform. So let's dig into this, because you said some profound things on the space the other day. And illegal immigrants don't qualify for Medicaid versus too many illegal immigrants getting Medicaid. Like, this was something that you alluded to. And I know that undocumented immigrants are not eligible to enroll in federally funded coverage, including Medicaid, CHIP, or Medicare. But when you're saying 1.4 million illegal immigrants getting Medicaid, are you saying, are you differentiating between state funded health programs or and the federal Medicaid program? What do you mean? Yeah, because I remember you making that statement, and I went back and listened, and I took some notes.
Okay, so let me explain. So the federal government is the overseer, right, of Medicaid, right? They're the overseer. So they make policies. And then from that point, the policies are implemented by the states. Each state can have, unless the federal government policy says something different, they can have variations in regards to how they handle their state policies, right? That's why in some states, I'm not going to say every state, but in some states, yes, you did have undocumented immigrants getting Medicaid, right? This was happening. And the reason why is because the policies, again, the overarching policy, okay, that's the federal government's policy, allowed for, let's just say, variance in the law in how the states implemented the policies. That's what you saw, right? A lot of people was like, well, how did that happen? Doesn't the federal government run Medicaid? They do. They implement the policy, right? But the states, they basically make the policy, but the states implement it. And depending on if there are ways to, weave and bob in the implementation, different states can do it different ways.
Okay. So let's move on to the next point. And I hope everybody is getting their Google fingers ready, or your Chat GPT. We're gonna start calling our platform Chat BTP, because we bring the facts over here, fam. We bring the facts over here. So sure. Okay, let me see. What was my next note? What was the next thing I wanted to talk about? So let me see, so one of the things I did was I just kind of looked up all of your talking points. So it says, in context, emergency Medicaid spending was $3.8 billion in fiscal year 2023 and was 0.4% of total Medicaid spending, covering only emergency services. Would you say that those emergency service, but see, and this is going all the way back to 2023. I don't think that it's taken into account the last year. Maybe they don't have those numbers generated as of yet, but would you say that that emergency spending was largely used for this immigrant, I'm going to call them illegal alien class?
I would say that the emergency spending could be twofold, right? Especially if we're talking about 2023 in particular. So we have to go backwards. We actually have to go backwards to 2001. In 2001, and yes, at that point in time, let me explain this. So when you elect a person to be president or whoever it may be, right? That first year, that they are president, the policies that are, especially as it relates to healthcare and most policies, but the policies that are still being implemented and followed are the previous administration's policies. Okay. So now we're talking 2021, right? 2021 was at the end of December of 2021. Anything that was previously Trump's was pretty much done at January of 2022, right? Okay. So that's when you saw an influx of people applying for and getting Medicaid. The reason why was because of OVID. That's what they said. But also in certain states, there was a lack of income guidelines, right? So in other words, in my state, they kind of threw out the income guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyone that needed Medicaid could get it. Okay. Including people who maybe shouldn't have never got it in the first place. Now, that caused the numbers of people on Medicaid to rise, of course. Now, we're going to keep going to 2023, and particularly the end of 2023. This is where rubbers meets the road. Mm-hmm. The end of 2023, and particularly May 22nd or 3rd, 2023, Joe Biden, who was the president at the time, declared an end to the COVID pandemic. Okay, COVID. When he declared an end, that started on, as it relates to Medicaid, the reevaluation process. It was haphazardly done, but we'll explain it, what that means. Reevaluation, redetermination. Redetermination is when now they're going to go back and they're going to look at all these people that's on the rolls for Medicaid, and they're going to actually ask them to produce income to verify in whatever state you're in that you should actually be on Medicaid. It was the most haphazardly disastrous process that was done. And the reason why is because how it was implemented. So you had people who, and I know my clients, right? Even that literally, and Black American clients that literally had the income for Medicaid that either barely got a letter, didn't understand what redetermination was, didn't understand why it is that they just got arbitrarily cut off, lost as a result some parts, especially if they were dual eligible for Medicare, some of the benefits that they were receiving, whether it was food benefits, whether it was, extra OTC, which is where you can go over-the-counter benefits, whether it's to be able to pay zero, right, for most of your health care because you have Medicare and Medicaid. This happened. It was horrible. Especially here in the state of Michigan. It was a hot mess, to say the very least. So that's why, to answer your question, that's why all that occurred, is because it was a swell of people that went on to Medicaid. Some of them were not eligible for it. Some that were eligible for it ended up getting arbitrarily kicked off and then had to wait to go back on, right? Or apply to go back on. Some of them, they didn't even know why they was kicked off. And meanwhile, between time, the immigrant population was immigrant, as in illegal immigrant population, was barely affected by any of it because of the fact that they prioritized them first. And I know that for a fact.
Wow. One of the things you spoke about that I thought was profound, but somebody asked you a question. I can't remember exactly who asked you the question, but you said something about those of, especially us, who may, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, who may be removed. We can still, do the ACA, the Affordable the Affordable Care Act. You said it was at $5 or zero premium coverage.
So Yeah, can I
Mhm.
explain that and
Oh,
explain what that
definitely.
means? Yeah, because
Definitely.
I want to make sure I'm being very detailed about that. So just say that you, in any of this time, have had ACA. Just say you have continuously, and I call it Affordable Care Act / Obamacare. A lot of people know it by that name, right? So you have continuously had ACA. You may have had Medicaid in 2021, 2022, and then some things happened. You income levels was different. You couldn't get Medicaid, so then you went on the ACA in January 2023, right? And you still have it now for January 2024, and we're about to get rolling into 2025 and 2026. 2026 is where you're going to see the first round of changes. These changes are coming in 2026, 2027, and a little bit in 2028. So now we're going to start about 2026. So like if you're on ACA now and you need to renew your plan at Obamacare, you're going to get your renewal notification in the mail. Just say that you are paying $0 for that plan right now based on your income guidelines. When you get that renewal notification in the mail, it's going to say you have a $5 premium. Right? It's going to continue to keep that $5 premium until you might as well say quantify if you need the renewal, right? Then at that point, you're going to put in, or you or your broker agent that you're working with is going to put in your new income, right? But here's the stickler. You're also going to have that income and know that that income is going to be in line with what is projected for the next year, and that you have filed your taxes for the previous year upcoming, or you will have filed your taxes in 2026 for 2025. If you have not filed your taxes for that, you will probably keep ACA for that until December 31st, 2026. But come January 1st, 2027, you're going to have some issues.
So
Mhm.
let me see. Or let me see. So under this new bill, I was wondering if you were aware that the Trump administration, they basically implemented a rule that requires a $5 monthly charge for people who don't verify their eligibility for zero premium plans.
That is true. That's coming up in plan year
Mhm.
January 1st of 2026. That's the first rule that was also quantified by the BBB that will go into effect January 1st, 2026. So you'll get in October, maybe sometime end of September, your if you're in a current plan, that current plan's information. Sometimes you get summary of benefits. A lot of people, I call it the annual notice of change because that's what really is called. And you'll also get a bill for $5. If
Mhm.
you do not, confirm that you need that plan, obviously that $5 will stay. However, you also need to realize that this is a key. This is big. You need to confirm. You don't want to just basically say, oh, okay, it's $5. I got $5. The
That's right.
reason why is because if your income does not balance with your tax statement, right? And you just roll through that $5 for the rest of the year, you're going to have to, before you get ready to get your benefits for January 2027, you have to pay back that tax credit, all of it
Oh,
that
wow.
you owe, right? That's another part of the BBB that is new for 2026.
So basically, if people are they're going to get some money
Mhm.
out of
Yeah.
the people,
Mhm.
regardless, because
Right.
a lot of people do not know this stuff, and they're not going to know that they need to verify and do all of the different things that are new now,
Mhm.
insofar as confirming your eligibility. Because,
Yes.
like you just broke down, it's been like this automatic thing year after year after year. But now you
Yes.
have to
Yes.
actually say, "Oh, ho, ho! I'm definitely eligible." And if you
Or I'm
don't
definitely
do that,
want it even. Right. I want it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully one of the things we'll launch from our channel when those changes begin to go into effect. Because we want our people to avoid that charge
Yes.
by confirming eligibility during the enrollment process. So we want to make
Yes.
sure that we're going to do our part on this channel. And, I would love to have you on anytime, sis, to break down more of this, because hearing you say it, you're simplifying it in a way that a lot of people, when they're hearing the talking heads on TV, they don't know what's going on. They, reading this stuff on whitehouse.gov, and it just all sounds like political talk. And if there's no one to explain it to you, explain to you exactly how it will work, then you can become messed up in the game. And then, the average citizen is going to go to blaming the politician because they want to get a couple dollars out of you anyway.
Of course, right.
So,
Of course. And, the $5 change, I just want to explain why the $5 change is important. This is one of the things I do agree with. And this is why, because there was massive fraud in the ACA system. And the Biden administration knew all about it. We were, with our groups, NABIB, which is National Association of Insurance and Business Professionals, we were screaming through the rooftops. And we were pretty much screaming to the rooftops, and just nobody was hearing us. The fraud that was happening, I got one case I can explain. It's a young man. I know him. He wasn't even my client then, but he has, and he's a Black American Freedman, right? Has some intellectual disabilities. Received a phone call on the phone, right, about a $500 card. You can get $500. You just sign up for this plan, just $500. I just need your information, yada yada yada. So. Of course, he's like, well, why not? I want a $500 gift card. So he signed up for the information. His mother, who is his, might as well say his guardian, right? Got a packet in the mail from XYZ Insurance Company. I'm not going to name them, but they're thorn at my side. XYZ Insurance Company. So the mother called me like, why does he have this? He has Medicaid, Medicare. Right. Exactly. Why does he have this? Because he does have Medicare and Medicaid. So that means he doesn't need ACA. Right. But people were trying to get paid. And the Biden administration allowed for that type of fraud to go on. He would have had a zero premium plan. He has a limited income. Right, because of his disability, and whoever was the fraudulent people that signed him up for that would continue to get paid. Right now imagine that with immigrants, especially illegal ones.
That's right. That's right. We have a question from our sister Roz from the DMV Freedmen. She says, "Are they setting up brokers across the country for people on ACA?"
Yeah, so basically, if you want to it's about give or take 900,000 brokers across the country. Now, not everyone is so you have brokers, health care brokers that can be either Medicare or ACA, and some both. Right, so they understand the Medicare line, they understand the ACA line, even short term, which are very short term, small group plan, plans, short term plans. So they get all that. Plus, they can do small group and etc. When it comes to ACA, you do have to be certified for that. So even though you're licensed, you got to take a test every year. The same thing is for Medicare. Even though you're licensed, you have to take a test every year. So particularly, you want to ask the question to, if you're working with a broker or an agent, or you're particularly, somebody told you about someone that they know, are you certified for ACA for 2026? Are you certified for Medicare 2026? Because they can tell you they're licensed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're certified. And if they're certified, they can't write the plan.
Okay, man. I'm loving this. I'm loving this conversation. Like I said, y'all, I heard this sister in the Twitter space Saturday breaking this stuff down. And I mean, I was like, oh, I gotta reach out. I gotta reach out. So because these are notes that I took from the space and I just formulated them into questions. So these are policy understanding questions. Can you explain the difference between federally funded Medicaid and state funded health programs for immigrants? Because during the, these Twitter spaces could be chaotic sometimes.
Of course.
It seemed like there was some conflation between these two elements, and I didn't really get a definitive breakdown to that. So can you just explain those differences?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, sis.
Yeah, we're going to talk about DACA. So DACA was President Obama's program originally. DACA was also basically codified by Joe Biden. If you had DACA status, you could get, I'm going to talk about ACA first. You could get ACA, right? Now, DACA status is really not anything because you don't have an A number, which is an alien number, which is also considered a green card. You're not here on a temporary visa, whether you're a temporary work visa, temporary school visa. You're not here on asylum. You're just DACA, right? Then you had another status that basically was just kind of federal immigration status. That was a status that was also allowed for a special exception, or it's called SEP, special exception period, for immigrants, right? So they had up to 90 days to prove that they were, here in their temporary illegal alien status. And then they would have another 60 days on top of that. Well, if you got 90 plus 60, how many? That's 5 months, right? Then they could ask for an extension.
Wow.
Which gave them another 60 days.
Wow.
And another extension for another 60 days. I mean, eventually you're at the whole year, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So that is what the Biden administration allowed on the ACA front. On the Medicare front, it's harder. And reason why is because basically how Medicare is structured, right? It is structured in the law that you have to be a U.S. citizen or legal immigrant, right? And you have to be in the United States for at least 5 years. That is the law as it relates to Medicare. Now, the other part of it is that you have to work for at least 10 years in order to not have to pay for Part A, which is Part A is the hospital insurance. So 10 years, or they call it, I call it like the working, it's like quarters, 40 quarters, 10 years. So you didn't have a lot of it on the Medicare side because of that. Because of the fact that the law is defined that you have to be a U.S. citizen or legal immigrant in the United States for at least 5 years. And if you're not, year 6, just say you don't have the working credits, it's going to cost you a little bit to get Medicare because you're looking at like $579 for Part A, and then another $185 for Part B. So you didn't really have a lot of the extreme fraud going on the Medicare side. It was the ACA side. It was definitely Obamacare, ACA. Just because.
But of course.
Yeah, how loose the standards were. And then on top of that, now I'm going to answer your question directly about federally funded plus state. So with Medicaid, you always got to remember the overarching policy that's done by the federal government. Right? That's the law. Mm-hmm. They define how that law should be implemented. And then the states have the opportunity to implement the law with different variations. That's why you saw in states like Florida, where maybe it's harder to get Medicaid, you didn't have as many people as in illegal immigrants being able to access Medicaid. People that literally access Medicaid was people that mostly needed Medicaid because their income guidelines. However, if you went to, again, my state, Michigan, it was off the hook. You go to California, it was worth. Med-Cal was.
I can imagine New York, California.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the reason why California almost broke, because of all the people they let on Med-Cal.
So let me ask real quick, just kind of question in between the questions. Because you said earlier you're no longer a Democrat.
Yes.
Is it because you were able to watch this process unfold and, kind of say, well, wait a minute, American citizens are, how did you, when you analyzed it and then determined that it was party specific, depending on how illegal aliens would receive this benefit from the United States? You just explained the 90 days plus the 60 days extension plus another 60 or 30
60
days.
Yeah.
Another 60 days.
Keep going 60 days.
Just keep going. Just keep. So how did that explain how that made you say, you know what, I'm done with the Democratic Party. I'm moving over, or at least leaning toward the Republican Party?
Yeah, I mean, and what it was twofold for me, right? Because I was in the Democratic Party for about 20 years. I was, and when I say in, I was in. I was, not only an elected official, I was on state central committees. I had, access to people that were in the DNC, county parties, the whole 9 yards. But I saw a progression that occurred right during that time, and the progression was twofold, right? Is that they wanted Black Americans to vote for them. Okay, but when it came from trying to do anything specifically for Black Americans, oh, you get around to it later. We'll get around to it later. Don't worry about it. Just continue to vote for us. I saw that on the federal level. I saw it on the state level, and Lord knows I saw it on the local level. So, I mean, after a while, it's like, okay, wait, right? I keep repping this D, but, I see that my people are not progressing the way they should, right? And some of this progression has to do with it. Make sure I want to quantify this statement very specifically. If you need help, right, you have every right to get a hand up in order to get help. And I'm talking to particularly my Black Americans, right? Because other people get hands up. So why can't you get a hand up? However, when it comes to the Democratic Party that were pulling strings, right? They wasn't really trying to help people get a hand up as they were trying to make them dependent, right? Because once you're dependent on that program,
that's right,
you're dependent on them, right?
That's right.
So whether they never do anything for you to give you a hand up, really, right? What does it matter? You're dependent on that program. You're dependent on them, right? And so things that that could have helped, right? Strong entrepreneurial training, right? Strong entrepreneurial support, right? You could use the SBA in order to give no interest or very low interest loans, right? In order to allow for people to have their ideas foster. You could have used SCORE and put those inside. And SCORE is a part of SBA. That's retirement. They're retired executives to help, young, middle-aged, even, Black Americans that have these business ideas be able to weigh that idea out for profitability. right? Because SCORE does that. SCORE will help you do that. SCORE will help you write your business
See,
plan.
I'm not familiar with most of what you're talking about. So
Yep. I know it's deep.
no, yes. And
Yep.
I'm gonna go back. I rewatch every video I do because I'm
Yeah.
always critiquing myself. And if I have a guest, I want to, catch what I probably didn't catch because I'm trying to pay attention to the live chat and everything else
Of
that's
course.
going on. So I'm gonna definitely go back and look at that. And much of what you said about what my sister Roz called that sinking ship, that is the Democratic Party, I think is the reason why many of us, we all seen something that made us say, you know what, man, screw these people. That you, like you said, they are creating a political base. They've created it. They're not creating it. They've created a political base that is dependent.
Yes.
And with you breaking down SCORE, all I could think about is like when I'm driving through Georgia, there's immigrant communities. There's like little Mexico and certain. There's this one part in Georgia. If somebody was to blindfold you and take, I think it was near Social Circle, and drop you off and unblindfold you in the middle of this place, you would think that you were in Mexico, right?
I have heard that's how Georgia is in certain areas now.
They have their areas. In Charlotte, they have, just I talk all the time about the strip malls, the Mexican strip malls.
Right.
And they will have the beauty salon, the barbershop, the gym, the bodega across the street, etc. And I don't see that when it comes to our people. So the fact that you brought that up, I'm going to look deeper into that. And now I and all of us who have to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire get to ask, why haven't our people been benefiting from these particular programs? Because obviously these people that came over here with, they always say, I came over here with not 2 nickels to rub together. Really? So how did you
they had more than 2 nickels.
parlay 2 nickels into a whole strip mall? No, you got, like you said, handouts and hand ups.
Yeah, so, and if I can briefly speak, things like the PPP and the idle loans, right? Yeah, some of us got it, right? But in the same aspect, the point is, did you know what to do with it, right? That actually takes training. Now, I blame the Trump administration for that, but I also know why it was COVID. So they were trying to hand out money, hand over fist at that point. But, that would have been a perfect time for a Democrat to get up and say, hey, wait a minute, can we make these loans tied to like business plans? Right? Tied to working with SCORE, tied to trying to make sure people were financially viable in these businesses. I mean, but they didn't do
nothing. Now, I want to pull up, I want to pull this up. I've pulled this up before on the stream before we continue with the questions. Now, there's so many different articles, right? Let me see. No, not this one. Not this one. This one. This is one of them. I'll pull this one up. This is on Forbes.
Okay.
Give me 1 second so I can share it. They got all of these pop-ups. I'm not trying to pay and be a member. Be easy. All right. So these are the articles that we shared right after COVID was, declared over. Black entrepreneurship blossoms after the pandemic. We would share these articles right here on this platform.
Right.
When we got extra money, this idea that every time somebody did PPP fraud, they always showed one of us. Right?
Every single time. Every single time. Which was incredible because most of us didn't get it.
That's a fact. And the whites, if we're being fair and honest, they were the ones that were the most abusive of the PPP loans. They didn't obviously publicize this right here. These were things that we just seen in the newspapers, like this Forbes article. There's several others, but this is just one that I haven't pulled the article up in a while, so it didn't pop up as the first article. Typically, when you search for something, Google keeps that memory of it. But this is, I just wanted to show this. Black entrepreneurship blossoms after the pandemic. Our people, the American freedmen, we started so many businesses. The problem was viability. Would we be able to maintain those businesses? Would we be able to get somebody said Tom Brady got one. See,
he did get one. He did.
I didn't know that. That's crazy, right? But and I don't. If I was to research right now, Black businesses after COVID, and I don't know if any studies have been done on it, I'm almost certain we probably are not going to see this flourishing new Black business class that formed after COVID. So our minds were in the right place. So to hear you break the score down and think about all of the new Hispanic businesses that I've seen over the past several years, it's disheartening.
It is disheartening. And, a lot of times they do come over with money. So they're not coming over with 2 nickels. And they are going into the businesses that we have been shunned away from, whether that is trades, right? The plumber, the HVAC person, the masonry, trucking, those type of trades, carpentry. Oh no, just go get the degree, right? Even though you may get the DAT and you may not find a job, go get the degree, right? Those are things we've been shoved away from. I mean, and that's not good, right? Because if you have a skill trade, right? AI can't come in and fix your plumbing.
That's right.
AI cannot come in and basically put down the cement for the masonry stairs in your house, nor can AI construct the home. They may be able to architecturally put the house together.
Right. They can give you a blueprint.
Right. But it cannot construct the house.
That's right.
So, those are things in trucking, right? That was very much being threatened by these illegal immigrants because they were just getting in trucks and driving.
Man,
my son's a truck driver. He's a
low lick of English, sis.
Right. They couldn't even speak. They couldn't say hi, but they were in a truck. So, I mean, what I say this to say that we have maximum opportunity now. One thing is about the ACA, I always viewed it as this, even when Obama passed it, is that it gave a way for people who wanted to create businesses to have health care, right? And so when we flip that around, right, is that we have the opportunity still. It's just how it is that we know how to create the viable businesses. That's the difference. So I hope that, I didn't mean to get out on business conversation, but that it means a lot to me. It does mean a lot to me.
No, definitely. And whatever you need to touch on, please do, because this is what this platform is dedicated to. I have it's crazy because I just realized I didn't put the link in our chat for my other brothers to jump on, but we have some business minds on the team as well. So no, we speak about all of it, but we have a question from the chat. Our brother Judicially Affirmed said, is it true that the BBB is set to go into effect after the midterms so that if the Dems win, it would look like their policies would be the reasons for these changes you're speaking on? Any opinions?
Yeah, of course. So you have to look at it. It's how this works. So the bill has been passed, right? Policies have been implemented. Those policies are going to go out throughout 2025, and then you have the midterm elections starting in 2026. Most people are now paying attention to elections, right? They're not paying attention to these policies going forward, right? So yeah, would the Democrats spend some of this to say, hey, we agree that Everybody shouldn't have been handed Medicaid over fists. Yeah, of course they would, right? I say that in regards to more of this, right? A lot of propaganda can go on, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is unfortunately the tenets of our society at this point. But individually as Black Americans, we have to go through and dig through the truth, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so yes, I love it. That was a great question. I'm glad you asked it because that can happen quite often.
Definitely, definitely. Let me just go to a little quick promo before we get to our last series of questions for our sister. She's going in, and I hope everybody is taking notes. I can't wait to go back and watch it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do because I want to become aware of this whole healthcare debate. I have political aspirations. I believe that this and foreign policy should be something that anyone that has political aspirations should have down packed. And I don't have it down packed. I can admit that. So let's go to this.
It's complex, so don't feel bad.
Yes, it's very complex, very complex. But yeah. I'm good at figuring out complex things. So I'm gonna start focusing my energy there.
Yeah.
From civil rights to civic power, we are the descendants of those emancipated, still fighting, but now organizing. No more marching just for visibility. We're building political muscle, claiming public office, controlling our local economies. We're taking our rightful seat at the table, not asking. We are citizens. This is the civic power movement. Join us at Freedmen University and be part of the legacy.
Yes. Y'all make sure y'all visit our website, usadof.org. Visit our website, bethepower.org. Go to our other YouTube channel, Freedmen University, aka Free You. And we're going to be dropping a lot of content over the next couple of weeks. So you all stay tuned to that. We have our sister Monica Williams here. She is a licensed broker. And, like I said, I came across her in a Twitter space that I was a part of the other day. And the sister came on and she was cooking. And I wanted to get her on the channel and on the platform so that she can explain some of this to our audience so we can pick up on it and start to add it into our understanding moving forward and to clear the clutter of the Twitter spaces because it's 1,000 people jumping off the mic with 9 out of 10 of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. So when certain people are talking, I shut up. I don't pretend to know it all at all. So I wanted to have the sister on to break some of this down. So let's get back to some of these questions. On that space, you had mentioned that states, I don't know if you mentioned it, but I can't remember because I didn't reference on this particular note that states were being punished for funding immigrant health care. So was that something that you were speaking to? And if so, was that referring to the recent, the OBBBA that reduces Medicaid matching funds for states that provide? Okay, yeah, give a breakdown.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but yes, it is actually true. Because in the BBB, and there's a specific way that is being done, especially as it relates to Medicare chip, and I want to kind of go into it. So first is and I'm speaking directly from the policy, retroactive coverage limitation. So states can limit Medicaid coverage start dates to the day of the application intended to reduce budgetary exposure. So in certain states, Medicaid can go back 90 days. May not be in all states. Michigan, you can go, if you apply for it, get it, it goes back 90 days. And the retroactive limitation part of the BBB, it can be starting the day of the application to 30 days back. So that's a couple of things. yeah, the other thing is emergency Medicaid FMLAP increase. So basically, that is increasing the federal match for emergency Medicaid coverage for undocumented immigrants. That begins in October 1st, 2026. So this is just emergency coverage, right? This is not everything else, right? It's not, oh, now the emergency is over and now I need to go to like the doctor. The emergency coverage basically says that, and it's a law, that you have a right to be treated in any hospital, whether you have insurance coverage or not, for the emergency, right? And that is a law. So because of that, that part of the law has to continue. Now, here's what you were talking about: improper payment recovery, right? States are required to report and attempt recovery for improper Medicaid payments. CMS is directed to reduce waste and fraud. So, in some cases where this Medicaid has been given to people that should have never had in the first place, so they shouldn't have been here. Yes, that is what that part of the BBB is on. It is for the improper payment recovery, and they're going to go and do it. And then another part is really important. CMS will, this is data matching across states. CMS will launch a mandatory monthly data matching program between the states to determine and eliminate duplicate Medicaid and CHIP enrollment across state lines. This enrollment starts with one state in 2027 and expand nationwide by 2026. So what that happens is, just say somebody got Medicaid in Ohio. Then they went and got Medicaid in California. Ohio and California wasn't talking to each other because there was no data matching. So that's another part of the BBB. But the biggest part for states, especially those states that did that, questionable stuff, is the improper payment recovery. Yeah, they may have to pay back the federal government for some of those things.
Oh, wow. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. Now, you were speaking about primary care doctors in that space. Can you like give a breakdown of what you were speaking of when you were speaking about direct primary care? And I guess you could get into those funds that I was speaking about earlier, if it relates to what is it called, HSA and HRA funds.
So direct primary care, and when I was speaking in the space, the first thing I said is that a DPC doctor does not pay me, right? So if you're doing direct primary care, you're doing that outside of the health insurance system per se, right? But I believe in direct primary care, and the reason why I believe in it and talk to doctors that do it is because it allows for you to have a doctor that is not being mandated by insurance companies to give you certain tests, to do certain things, to only spend 15 minutes with you, because the doctors are having to meet metrics that are set by these insurance companies. I'm just being real. They are. So direct primary care doctor, which is a DPC doctor, the funds now that you have inside of a health savings account or a health reimbursement account can now be used to pay for the DCP. It's $100 up to $100 a month if you're an individual, up to $300 a month if you are a family, right? To pay for that direct primary care. Why does that advantage you, right? Not the labs though. You still have to pay for the labs on your own. But why does that advantage you? It advantages you because now you can still have a healthcare plan, but it's for things that are actually serious, right? So like, for instance, now, you have to have surgery, right? Labs. I was speaking to a DCP doctor just recently. He has a deal with, what's that big lab? Oh my God, it's like right on the tip of my tongue, but it's a nationwide lab. And
LabCorp?
Like, yes. And so when you get your blood paneling where they're looking at 40 different things, he has a deal with LabCorp that you can get that for $40.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Now, when you bill that through your insurance, it's going to be about 500 and something, and then if you have a copay, you got to pay your copay, right? So you're getting someone who is now looking at you as a whole individual.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just okay, yep.
Yeah,
Check
my
the box,
doctor.
15 minutes. Check the box, 15 minutes.
Yeah, my doctor has me come in. He pulls up the computer. He pulls like everything good. Like, I'm
Thanks
he
for
check my levels. Like everything looks good. He's like,
right.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, you can have real discussions because those appointments are 45 minutes to an hour about, and they're unlimited too. In that month that you're paying that DCP, how to get healthier for real, right? Not just about let's just put you on the next Ozempic. Like let's really structure ways to reduce your calorie intake and also include exercise, right? That can actually get you healthy. And we're going to do metrics. We're going to make metrics to see if you're meeting the metrics and do the labs to see if you're meeting the labs and talk about this and work through this. Right. So that's why I'm very strong. I'm really excited about the
so you are, because I've had a whole opposite reaction just with my last live stream. And that's why I wanted to reach out to you. I ran the bill through every AI bot that I utilize. Claude and Grok, especially, because I was able to put the whole text in there.
Yep.
I had to break it up, but I still was able to do it. With chat, I just used the summary, and they all came back with the same ominous, the CBO reporting, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, so far, those of us that are at the bottom, it looks like we are going to be hurt by, by this BBB overall. Then that was the stream before last. The last stream I did, I broke down where you are, your tax bracket, if you will, right? If you're at the bottom of the bottom, then you're going to lose about $1,600 according to all of the metrics and the tests that were done by the CBO, the projections, et cetera, et cetera. Once you start hitting the $50,000 and up, there's no losses and some very small incremental gains. And then, the higher your income bracket, the more you actually get. So for me, I've noticed that politicians always start from the middle up. I come from the class of the bottom. And so I'm always thinking bottom first. And so, yes, when I heard you breaking it down in the space, I wanted to, have you come on and kind of shed a little positive light on, because my last two streams was kind of crazy, especially that first one. The last one kind of evened out because I had more information, and you've definitely provided us with some more information. My sister Ross says, I have health care, but I'm concerned about freedmen who have none. So,
oh yeah, me too.
So let's get into that a little bit. I know you spoke about the, what is it called? The open market.
Yes. The ACA, open enrollment. Yes.
Right. So for those that do not have any health care, how does the OBBBA or the BBB affect them? Right. We know that the ACA, there was like some penalty involved if you didn't have the health. Can you give us a brief breakdown based on what you know so far?
Yeah, so that penalty now was declared illegal by the Supreme Court. So that part, you're good. Here's where you have to make sure, and I want to talk about open enrollment. Open enrollment is November 1st through December. Well, actually, it's going to continue for this year until January and next year until January 15th. However, for 2027, the open enrollment will be from November 1st to November 15th, period.
Wow.
Unless you're in an expanded state, a state that implements their own exchange, maybe like Kentucky. Kentucky can go until December 30th, but this is going to be the biggest change for people to know about is the open enrollment period with AACA. So they're going to be like, oh, well, it's all great. I can still do it until just January 15th for 2026, but that's changing in 2027. Okay. So that's number one. You have to know what that the real open enrollment period is November 1st through December 15th. Now, for folks that don't have any health care and they never have, they never apply for ACA. Apply for ACA November 1st through December 15th, right? Now, one thing I would advise you, make sure you have your taxes done. Okay. Don't do that. Oh, I got it. And I'm never going to don't do that because you don't want to get yourself caught up. For folks that basically have had ACA, if you haven't filed your taxes, please file your taxes. They are going to go back 2 years. So please file your taxes, right? That's the key. If you want to say it's not a penalty for not having ACA, no, it's not. But the penalty can come in if you have misstated your income, and then you got to pay back premium tax credits or the subsidy. So that's where I'm kind of emphasizing this like 3-4 times. And I'm doing that because I want us, our Black Americans, to know that this change is coming, right? And I don't want anyone to be surprised or anyone to worse lose their health care because they owe something. Now they can't pay it. And what you gonna do, right? So we don't want people in that situation. So if I can say one more thing now, as it relates to the Medicare side, which I haven't talked a lot about. So in 2025, the new prescription drug plan came into effect with Medicare. January 1st, 2025. It went from up to $8,700 that you and the carrier could pay before you hit catastrophic coverage at different levels to $2,000. Okay, so $2,000, which is great. It's great for beneficiaries. Yay! I mean, I'm happy for my beneficiaries. However, I do want to make them aware that it is going to come back around in January 1st, 2026. So when that the catastrophic coverage amount drops, right, from $8,700 to $2,000. Come January 1st, 2026, and really you'll see it in your open enrollment period starting in October 15th through December 7th. You will see, if you have Medicare Advantage plans, especially, you will probably start seeing premiums on those Medicare Advantage plans. You may see some cuts to those additional benefits like dental, like vision. You may see higher out-of-pockets. You may see increased copays. That's the biggest thing that's hidden some of our people with Medicare first, particularly. And it's going to happen with this enrollment period, annual election period, starting on October 1st. Because whatever you never, the key is you never get anything for free. What Biden did, and I agree, yes, it needed to be lowered. I just don't agree that it should have been lowered to 2,000 because I know the other side of the back end is going to be worse.
My sister Ross says, why are they scaring these old folks, telling them they won't have Medicaid anymore? That's the Democrats. They have all their paperwork in order. So
yeah. Well, I mean, because it's an election tactic. Basically, first of all, no, if you have Medicare, right now, this moment, you're going to keep your Medicare, right? That's just the way it is. You're not going to basically lose your Medicare. If you are a qualified beneficiary for Medicare, you have your Medicare. You will keep your Medicare. I don't want to sound like it's your doctor and you can keep it, but the reason why is because you have earned the benefit. Either you qualify from being 65 or above, or you were on Social Security, disability, age 18 to 64 for more than 2 years, and on month 25, you are eligible for Medicare, or you either have Lou Gehrig's disease or end-stage renal disease, and you've been on, and you have had that for at least 3 months, and on month 4, because it's been verified for your doctor, you have Medicare. Now, the end-stage renal disease, if you do get a kidney though, right, you could lose that Medicare in a year. But the key is if you're not on immunosuppressive drugs. If you're on immunosuppressive drugs, you can keep the Medicare, but you got to make sure Medicare knows that you're on those immunosuppressive drugs.
So I think a lot of it boils down. I mean, ultimately, some of us will be negatively impacted by this bill, whether we have knowledge of it or not. But I think that it's, I'm going to use my platform to the best of our ability here at Be the Power to help spread the word and get into the community. That's where it's most important at. In the same way people organize during election cycles, I think that we may have to form some type of organization. So you're saying starting this October, things will, and then
and those implementations do go into effect January 1st, 2026. I totally get your question. Yes, we do need to eat, and Lord knows we need to see and also have dental. So what I tell people is to make sure that you're working with a broker or agent that knows about all the plans that are available to you on the market, because not every carrier is going to do the same thing, right? So some carriers may have increased copays, but leave the dental and vision the same. Some carriers may basically keep parts of their healthy food benefits for individuals that have certain health conditions. The health conditions may go down, but in the same aspect, they may keep that. You need to make sure you're working with a broker that here are your criterias. They should be able to present you with plan options that can meet most or all of those criterias, right? And also, please look at especially on the Medicare side, please look at your annual notice of change, please. When you get that in September, look at that like you looking at, I don't know, the bill to pay your mortgage every month. Please make sure you look at it. If you may have questions about it. If you have questions about it, you're not working with a broker agent, call your whoever you're with, that carrier you're with. But if they're not giving you the answer, find a broker or agent in your area to work with. NABIB, which I'm going to give another shout out to NABIB, which is the National Association for Insurance and Business Professionals. They do have a list of agents and brokers that are within your area, www.nabib.org, that you could go and look at. I'm not in every state. I'm only in 8 states. But if you're in a state where you need to have a Medicare review, because you want somebody to look, they can't charge you for it, so why not do it for free?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I don't have any more questions. I'm glad that you came on tonight. I figured that it was going to go as great as it went. And we definitely need to have this understanding about this particular bill, and really all of the policies that may affect us in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So you seem pretty knowledgeable about policies in general. So whenever we have these discussions, I would love to reach out to you and have you come on. Hey, be a regular. We're not a big platform, so we can't afford to, pay anybody to come on.
I'm okay.
You don't have
to pay me for advice.
Nomad 3142 said, outstanding info without fear tactics. Exactly. And that's what we need. We don't need any fear tactics at all. And this is what comes with sensible understanding of
Can I,
your
can
guys.
I please talk about this 20 hours? This was something just very quickly. I'll be very quick.
No, sure. No, take your time.
Okay, so the 20 hours implementation is going to be rolled in throughout 2026 and 2027. However, here's the thing, right? If you're a senior or if you're disabled, it's not going to be you. Okay. Now that's knocked that out. So now you have to look at the rest of everybody else. I think I mentioned this on the space. You could actually be a self-employed person getting Medicaid, right? So with that, you have a right to basically get a self-employment ledger in order to quantify those 20 hours. And yeah, the BBB does allow for you to volunteer for a nonprofit organization in order to get your 20 hours.
Oh, hey, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is an official nonprofit 501c3 organization. Y'all come, hey, look.
I'm just saying. I mean, it is in there. It's in there. So I just wanted to quickly explain that 20 hours. I know a lot of people are very fearful of
it. Okay, yes. So no, and that because that was one of the things that we pulled up on the first live stream, how that program failed, right? It was designed to create this to shake off the lethargy that comes with being dependent on welfare for generations. We break down how when these social safety nets were first formed in the 1930s, they were only given to white people for the first 30 years. So much so that they were able to use those social safety nets to help build themselves up a middle class. We've shared those articles. Hey, I share those articles actually all the time. And by the time we got to those social safety nets, they gave us crumbs, forcing dependence upon it, because you don't need it if you're working and you're bringing in good money and you're able to take care of your household, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think that, when we look at what happened under the Clinton administration and just how bad that was with immigrants being removed from these, jobs that I feel that they shouldn't have, not before us anyway, especially if you didn't come in the legal way. You shouldn't be working at all in the United States of America unless you want to be like my bond servant for 6 or 7 years. And I have some, cotton and strawberries and potatoes and yams for you to pick out there. Then after 6, 7 years, I'll stamp that paper and you can start your pathway towards citizenship. At least that's my plan. I'm with going back to the old feudal systems in some cases when it comes to this immigration, illegal immigration thing. But my point is that, hopefully the training that's done, let's just say 20 hours a week. Okay, you're going to train 20 hours a week on forklift driving, because if that's, that's going to be a need soon with these jobs. Like you said, AI can't drive no forklifts.
No, they cannot. They cannot.
AI is limited to what it is. It is a brain without arms and legs. Now, when they start building robots to do all of this stuff, we might be in trouble. Right?
That will be an issue, right?
That will be an issue. But for now, AI robots are not going to come in and fix our plumbing and wire our electricity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, maybe, hopefully, it turns into a productive thing, and we're not cursing the politicians and whoever else. Either way, we're preparing over here to mobilize for the midterms. So if things go crazy, we will be right there like, nah, this thing ain't going right. Y'all going to either get it right or you're going to have to contend with this new political class. So
if I could say, this is the time, right? This this period, right? In order to get your financial affairs in order, this is the period to do it. I've been stressing this to people. I stress it on my Twitter. The next 5 years, you need to stack as much cash. You need to hoard your cash. You need to invest your cash to get as much cash as possible. And I say that in particularly to our people, Black American people, right? Be frugal with what it is you get, you buy, and what you do, right? Be financially conscious because the interest rates are going to go down probably in 2027. But in the same aspect, you got to be very careful not to get something more than you can afford, because everything that goes down is going to come right back up, right? So this is a time that, we really need to think very long and hard about our financial decisions, wherever it is, whatever aspect it is, and stack our cash.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So, and I know, we for those of us that are at the bottom, that's an issue for us.
Yes, of course.
For those of us that's in the middle up, this is great advice. This is why we're fighting, in the way that we're fighting, because we want to make sure that our people at the bottom are not forgotten about. There's no way anybody should have been allowed to come into this country and skip the line. Mm-hmm. And Roy Beck, I don't know if you're familiar with Roy Beck, but he wrote a book called Back of the Hiring Line. It's an excellent book about immigration and how they pushed us to the back of the hiring line with each new piece of legislation that ushered in massive waves of immigration, all the way up until you don't even need any new immigration policy. Yeah. Just let them roam through the border, the southern border. Everybody could come in here. You've got scientists from China. Who the hell knows who's in this country?
Yeah, right, I called it the line dance. They just line danced across the border.
That's right.
And every time that happened, it was putting Black Americans back.
That's right.
Right. Every single time. And that's what we also have to look at, especially for our brothers and sisters on the bottom trying to come up. It was severely putting them back. Right. And the Democratic Party, honestly, they didn't care, because the reason why is because they were getting paid off of the policies to let them in big time. They were getting paid and supported before their campaigns. They were getting paid and supported off the back end. They were getting paid off the illegal immigrants coming in the first place. They were getting paid. So they definitely did not care. Right. So I just want to make sure that's out there too. Again, as I mentioned at first, you vote for your best economic interest. You don't have to be a Democrat. You don't have to be a Republican. You should be me first, my people first, my brothers and sisters first. What is going to basically uplift all of us and me and them and our family? That's where you vote. Put your vote there. Forget about, oh my God, rocking with this party or
that's
that
right.
party.
That's right. And that's why I had to tell my people, they couldn't understand why I voted for Trump. I was like, I'm voting my interests. I'm not a Republican, but my interests are closely aligned with what is being presented during this campaign run. And none of my interests are being catered to at all by the Democratic side of it. I have children. My youngest is my twin girls. They're about to be 19 years old. One of my sons just had a baby. I got a new grandbaby. Thank you. They have families that they're trying to build.
Yeah.
And when you've been at the bottom, it's so hard, especially anybody that kind of gets a little bit of something, because now you got everybody pulling at you to try to help. And you, especially as men, we feel like we're going to give a pint of blood if we have to make sure that the family is, that they're good, or as good can be with whatever it is that we can give. So I didn't get that from anything that the Democratic Party was presenting. And that was the purpose of that space the other day, right? Do you regret not voting for Kamala? No, not at all.
Not at all.
The immigration across the southern border has been reduced to illegal crossings. Let me phrase that correctly. Illegal crossings across the border has been reduced to damn near nil.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
how that can happen.
That's right. That's right. So and nobody said that. Nobody believed that was something that could happen. And now look at where we're at. The National Bureau of Economic Research highlights the fact that during the 1980 and 2000 immigrant influx alone, Black men especially had higher levels of wage suppression, which led to crimes of poverty, higher homicide rates committed by Black men, and higher incarceration rates, because you got to eat. Survival of the fittest is what it is.
Yes.
Let me see. Patrick Tyler said voted for Trump as well. Black America has to learn to vote interests and become independent, no party affiliation. So I agree with that, right? But America is a system that has political parties. That's why Elon, instead of trying to siphon off some of the Republicans who probably would rock with them if he just dropped one of those bags like Bloomberg was doing during that.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the Bloomberg years. I do.
Bloomberg was dropping some monopoly money bags off the people. Elon decided that he was going to create a new party he's calling, and I feel the same way. I'm not a fan of Elon, but I feel that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is a uniparty. I do feel that way. Some people, like my sister Sonny Johnson, she believes that don't start a third party, go take over the goddamn Republican Party.
Right? If I can just give a minute summary on that one. I totally get it. I get how people just take over the party. Okay. So let's go through history. So basically the history was, let's see here. We had the Perot version of the Republican Party was a Perot version. It didn't take it over. It didn't. Okay. Ron Paul, the Paul people, right? They still haven't taken over the Republican Party. Occupy Wall Street didn't take over the Democratic Party as a whole.
The Tea Party made some inroads.
But they made some inroads, but they still, you don't hear about them now.
That's right.
What I'm saying is that yes, you can push the influence, but in the same aspect, the point is that push the influence to get the policies, because the upper echelons of these parties are going to be who they are, right? And if you can embarrass them enough in order to basically get the influence to get that policy, yay, right? Do I agree with third party politics? I mean, I'm independent, right? But in the same aspect, it has to be done with a purpose. If it's just being done because somebody mad, that ain't gonna do it, right? You actually have to have a purpose behind that party. We'll see with Elon.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I think because I've seen Trump's post on Truth Social saying that, the party is not going to do anything. Man, they know that man got that money. They know he got that money, and he can take a couple $1 million and really do some damage. And now, in fairness to those that critique Elon and what he's doing, you can possibly be giving the power right back over to the Democrats, whom you just really rustled it away from and ensured that they would probably never get back. And not never, but
a long time. It was a long time. At least 8 years, right?
Yeah, at least 2 cycles, right? Let's see. Patrick Tyler said Elon's party is a failure from the start. He's not going to be successful because his outreach is going to be to a shrinking white supremacist anti-black demo. He's dimmed from the start. That's a good assessment. That is
It's a good
good
assessment. I mean, you
assessment.
have to look at Elon. He really wanted to have HB1 visa people
That's
come in
right.
and MSA.
And he's still tweeting
Again,
about that too.
and he's still tweeting about it. And he
Mhm.
told people to F off if they didn't like it.
That's right.
That to me is not viable for Black Americans, right?
That's
If you're
right.
in the tech area and you got all these people coming in on these HB1 visas, that is threatening you directly, right?
Well,
And, you know, and so
the
it's like,
techies
wait
could
a minute.
vote for him, sis. Right? The techies. If you
Right,
let in, maybe if you let in enough of
right,
them, you could do what the Democrats was trying to do.
right.
with
You know,
this.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So, you know, he has a lot to flesh out with his American party. I can tell you
Mhm.
that much. First of all, if he's trying to do it, he should start on the state and local levels. Or better yet, inside of some of these congressional districts where these Democrats have been in for like 30, 40 years. You know what I'm saying? Maybe try with that, right?
That's what
Don't,
Patrick Tyler said. The Democrats will get right back in bed with Elon.
yeah, oh, most definitely. So you know, you don't take them wrong just because they was out there protesting, doing no kings, you know, trying to blow up, you know, Teslas, which is terrible.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
they are in the core. If they have the opportunity to have that cash of Elon's, they would all of a sudden you
Oh,
start
yeah.
hearing the talking points start changing,
Oh, yeah.
right? He has to be very careful. He needs to understand and flesh out what his mission is, because really, in my strong opinion, after what the Democrats have done over the past 4 years, they don't need to be back in power for 20 years, in my
That's a
opinion.
fact.
They
I
harm
agree.
so many people,
That's
so
right.
many ways. They harm Black Americans so many ways,
That's right.
including education as well, which is a big heartstring of mine. You know, we had our kids in some states in Zoom school for 2.5 years while having, you know, educational deficits, right? Whether that was speech, language, or other deficits. You can't really kind of handle those on Zoom school, right? So in other words, you set our kids back. And they are still struggling to this day to catch up, right? That part to me is unforgivable with the Democratic Party.
Indeed, indeed. All right. So again, I want to thank our sister Monica Williams for
Thank
coming
you.
on. This was a very powerful, educational, and edifying discussion. And I would love to have you on. So anytime. So I might be reaching anything policy related, and I might want to put that panel together. I will be reaching out to you, sis. I would love
Yes,
to
I
have
would love to have talk about, you know, anybody questions about healthcare. I am more
Mhm.
than willing to come
Definitely.
on, you know, because I want to spread information. We
Mhm.
have a nonprofit that we have with our Educate Seminar series and events. That is what we do. We basically talk and talk about information
Yeah,
related to
tell
healthcare.
the people how they can find your nonprofit, how they can
Yeah.
support, become a part of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, first I'll first talk about the profit, right, and then I'll talk about the nonprofit, which is MRW Solutions Group. So if you have questions and somebody in your family got questions in regards to life, health, and annuity insurances, that is what we do. All our consultations are no cost. So that does not mean that you're going to sign up for anything with me just because I talk to you or my staff. So what that means is that, you know, if you really want to get real information, we will give it to you. We're licensed in 8 states: Michigan, Ohio, Virginia. Nope, change that one. Yes, got rid of that one. So Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Connecticut, New York. Yes, we are licensed in New York, South Carolina, Texas, and Arizona. So if you're in those states, we can help you. If you're not in those states and you're looking for someone to help you, we can connect you with someone that can help you. So you can find out more information about our for-profit MRW Solutions Group company and brokerage at mrwsolutionsgroup.com. Educate Seminar Series is basically our whole purpose of that is no cost questions about life, health, and wealth. So you want to dig into the details, like what does this mean about an open enrollment period? What does this mean about a summary of benefits? How is it that annuities work? How is it that life insurance actually works? Because there's a whole bunch of questions about that. We do that through our nonprofit nonprofit. We also work with senior centers, churches, community events. We educate not just about insurance. We help people learn how to use their cell phones. We help people learn how to navigate Google Drive. We actually do a financial wellness seminar as well, because we care about our communities and trying to make sure that they have the knowledge and the information needed in order to expand that and make them, number one, informed. And I almost like to say dangerous, because once you're informed, you're dangerous, right? And that's what the society doesn't want you to do. So if you would like to support our mission with Educate Seminar Series and Events, you can go onto our website at mrwsolutionsgroup.com/seminars, as with an S, -events. And that's where you can find out about our mission, our board, the events we do. I just did one today. We played bingo with seniors, and they loved it. We played 5 rounds of bingo, and I mean, it was just a fun event. But and we were able to give out 5 different gifts, and that one senior even won a Bluetooth speaker.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Putting that work in, working for the people, working for the community. Gotta love it. So family, make sure those of you who have just came in, and the X numbers is starting to go up, which I don't know why it does that. Like towards the end of our streams, it just seemed like everybody just starts coming on and watching it. But make sure you go back and watch this from the beginning. I asked some very important questions, and the sister gave us some very, very important answers. Support our platform as well. You know, Be the Power, $, Cash App, $, Be the Power. We got bills to pay. We do have bills to pay. You could become a member of the channel. I don't like saying don't, but I don't quite understand how everything works with X insofar as streaming. We just stream to X, but I think people have monetized X, and if we're streaming on it and it can be monetized, then we have to, like you said, we have to pay for StreamYard and all of this other stuff every month. So I would love for people to support us. I put the sister's website in the chat, mrwsolutionsgroup.com. Check out her website. I was looking at it earlier. It's dope. And we need all of this information. We need it. We definitely need our family to be more informed. And this is what our platform was dedicated to. It was dedicated to informing our people. Tomorrow night, I may go on tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, it'll be Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to talk some crypto. We're going to keep these conversations going. What happened with that Ripple case? And has XRP, for those that know the crypto talk, has that taken off, or is it still stagnant? And why hasn't it taken off? Especially when I'm holding on to some XRP right now. I was expecting that thing to shoot to the moon, and it ain't going nowhere. So we're going to bring some people on. Hopefully we could get Brother Josh on. He knows a thing or two about cryptocurrency as well. And we're going to have a good conversation. We're going to keep these conversations going. Sister Monica, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming through and breaking down all of this important information. Whenever we have any questions about anything, if anything arises based on this healthcare and policies or healthcare and how it relates to the policy, of some type of curveball happens, I want to be able to reach out to you and have you come back on and explain to the people. So it's definitely been a pleasure. You have any closing words before you?
The only other closing words is that just really in regards to brokers, your broker should work for you. Okay. That's who they work for. They don't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. Okay. If they're not doing the job for you, you need to fire your broker and get another broker. And I say that in all honesty. The other thing is just a week and a half ago, I knew about some of these things that was coming up in the big beautiful bill because I had the courtesy and pleasure of going to the Centers for Health, Medicare and Medicaid Services for agent broker event in Washington, D.C. So we saw Dr. Oz. I mean, we talked to people inside of CMS, and that's how we knew, okay, yep, these things are going to be real. These things are going to be implemented. These things are in the BBB. These are not. Your broker should do more in regards to getting education. It's not just about selling you. It's about making sure that they're knowledgeable.
How about for those people that would like to become a broker, how would they go about that process?
Oh my goodness gracious. So that process begins by getting a license in your state. You have to take a state test. But before you take the test, you actually need to kind of do a pre-test. You can go through different organizations like Kaplan, right? Kaplan Continuing Education. That's where I got my initial at, where you take the classes, you do your 40 hours a week. It could be a little different based on your state. After you have finished those classes, then you need to study. Okay, I say that because a lot of people, I finished the class, let me go take the test. Trust me, you don't want to do that. So you really need to study, and you also need to make sure that you're doing your quizzes until you get the content down packed. That way, when you go in there and take that test, you're not taking it more than 2 or 3 times. If you're taking it more than 5 times, you need to go back and study. The tests are hard. Basically, they are built to make sure that, honestly, I flipped that number. Anywhere from 35 to 40% of the people don't pass it every time they take it. So yeah. So if you can get a mentor, it helps. If you know as well. And then once you actually pass that test and get your license, then you need to figure out, okay, how, because it's a lot to this business. How can I learn about this business? Because it's test life and then there's real life. Right. And that's where you definitely are going to need a good broker. Definitely need a good agency that can get you all trained. If you're looking, we are hiring agents. So if you're in any of the states that I mentioned, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Connecticut, New York, South Carolina, Texas, and Arizona, and you are looking to become an agent, please go on our website, go on your contact us, and we would definitely love to talk with you.
Excellent. Man, we're going to need brokers, family. We need our people in these positions to explain this information to our people in the same way Sister Monica explained it here tonight. So take advantage of it. We need it. Did you want to share any social media, maybe email people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have questions, obviously you can go on our website. Our email is info@mrwsolutionsgroup.com. If you are social media, Facebook, pretty much MRW Solutions Group. Also, we're on LinkedIn. You can look under us under MRW Solutions Group. I'm on LinkedIn. Monica Ross Williams. I am on LinkedIn. Twitter is IU Truth Tellers 2. Twitter, I talk about a lot of things on Twitter. So yes, healthcare, but I talk about a whole bunch of other things. And then also on Instagram, you can find us on Instagram at Monica RW MBA1, which is also basically Instagram for MRW Solutions Group. We would love for you to follow us on Twitter. Please give us a follow on Facebook. We have 1,000 followers on our Facebook. We would love to get that even more so. And definitely you will learn about healthcare. So if you follow on our Facebook, that is what you're going to get. You're going to get healthcare. If you want to follow for other things like what she really thinks, go on IU Truth Tellers too.
That's right. So again, thank you, sis. And thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I believe that, if you're interested in becoming a broker, you should absolutely take advantage of this. From my knowledge, that's not a field that I hear a lot about.
No, you don't. And it's not a lot of us in it. I can tell you. When I was at CMS, a week and a half ago, I was looking at the number of Black Americans in the room. and it was probably about 5%.
Wow.
We need more of us.
We need more of us.
Okay.
We need more of us. I need my people that are watching to step up. It's time to become a broker. You have the website, MRW Solutions Group. Go check it out and start the process. Let's start that process. All right, y'all. So we are going to end the stream right now. I'll leave you all with the motto of our platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. But with that, I say peace.
Peace.
We'll be right back.